Previous episode of Top Tips for the Oskies, I talked about how important taking control of your mental state was prior to actually entering the Oski station. In fact, it's even more important to have a technique on hand that gets you in the right state, well, really whenever you need it. So we call this technique anchoring. It's a trigger that you can fire off whenever you need confidence. As a young health professional, you're really going to need this during your career. So let's get on with it, shall we? Hi everyone, it's Bob here again with Top Tips for the Oski, part 2. In this episode, we're going to do a quick recap on how we build confidence, and then we're going to add our new trick, so just keep watching. If you remember, in the last episode, we practiced going back to a time when you were totally confident, when you were absolutely, totally in control. Go back to that time now and remember what you saw. Look at the image in your mind's eye and notice if it's in colour or black and white, or if there's more than one image, for example. Is the image moving? Is it still? Is it three-dimensional or two-dimensional? Can you see yourself in the image, or are you looking out in the first person? And where is the image located? Is it in front of you, to the sides? Look for wherever it is and stay focused on the image. And as you look at the image, do you notice any sounds? Any sounds associated with it? And now, if there are sounds, notice where they're coming from. Is it in the left ear or the right ear, from the front or the back? What is it doing? Quite often or not, you might hear sounds, but usually you can. I just want you to recall a memory, and don't worry if there isn't any sounds, that's not a problem. What we're trying to do is return to the memory and make it as clear as possible. Now we're going to look at is the feeling. Let's notice the quality of the sensations in the body. Is the feeling when it's located? Is it pulsing? Is it quivering? Is it buzzing? Is it moving? Is it fluttering? Often when it spins, we speed it up and it makes us even stronger, and we become aware of these feelings of confidence. Once you've accessed this memory, it's actually now time to magnify the feelings and to really get them going. Once you're in this heightened state, and only when you reach the peak of the experience, the very peak of it, I want you to create a trigger, an anchor, by squeezing your forefinger and thumb together really firmly, or tapping your hand, or something else you can do, but it's got to be done easily and covertly. I snap my fingers, or I press my thumb into my palm. I used this when I was a young actor early on in my career, just before walking on stage, bundles of nerves. And because it made such a difference to me, I've always taught this to many of my students. So, pick one small physical action, repeat the action repeatedly whilst you are in this heightened state. We call this anchoring, and you've now installed your very own. You may have seen athletes and sportsmen doing bizarre things like this. You'll often see a tennis player rolling a racket round and round in the hands, or a golfer flicking the club. Yeah, many sportsmen perform these sort of seemingly innocent behaviours just prior to an excellent performance. The thing is, you've already had an experience of the power of an anchor. Think about it. Music, it's one of the obvious ones. When was the last time you felt low and you suddenly heard an uplifting song on the radio? Completely transformed your mood. The opposite, of course, can also happen. You listen to a blues song and it brings you down and makes you feel sad and remind you of sad times. Positive or negative anchors. Smells, here's another one, can be incredibly powerful, and they'll bring back really strong emotions too. Certain smells might sort of take you back to your childhood. Suddenly you notice the smell and you're back there, you're experiencing the same feelings with the same vibrance as when they actually happened. We have all had an experience of meeting someone we didn't particularly like, and then years later we hear their voice or their name, and the old state returns. These negative anchors, when triggered, will obviously take you right back to that time it happened. I'm sure some of you can recall the times things didn't go quite as well in an Oski and you carried that unpleasant experience on to the next one. Not a very useful anchor. You can't have that happen. Not in your 5th year when it's high stakes. So, unpleasant experiences and their associations that we make are, well, they're not resourceful, and I'm going to talk about how to collapse negative anchors in a future episode. Pretty important episode. For now, I want you to practice with your eyes closed, accessing this positive state, firing off the anchor, and practice, remember. Practice, because that's what makes you perfect. And there is one technique here that's going to be well worth the time and effort. All this, we haven't even discussed how we read the question yet. But more of that, and a little bit of a funny story about that, much later. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember to subscribe, tell all your friends, and keep watching for the new ebook. A funny thing happened on the way to the Oskies. That's coming soon. Thanks, guys.